We often talk about success as if it is a destination, a mountain peak we need to climb, a final grade we need to achieve, or a trophy we need to win. And naturally, our eyes are always fixed on that summit. We look forward at the big goal. Lose 50 pounds, launch the startup, write the book, run the marathon. But what if I told you that staring intently at the mountaintop is actually holding you back? What if the secret to reaching the top isn't about focusing on how high it is, but rather about changing the very hardware of your brain right here, right now, in this room? Today, we are talking about a concept called the feedback loop of success. And more specifically, we are going to discuss how small wins rewire your brain for big goals. To understand this, we have to take a quick detour into your biology. Specifically, your dopamine system. Most of us think of dopamine as the molecule of pleasure. That's a misconception. Dopamine is actually the molecule of hunting. It is the chemical that makes you keep looking for something more. Every time you set a goal, whether it's to buy a new phone or to get fit, you feel a spike of dopamine because your brain anticipates the reward. But here is the trap. When you fail or when progress stalls, which happens almost every single time we try something difficult, our brain stops producing that chemical. It tells us, that path doesn't work. Stop trying. This creates a feeling of exhaustion known as burnout, even if your body isn't physically tired. This is why so many people quit before they reach the halfway point. Not because they lack talent or time, but because their brain has learned that the effort does not equal reward. Their feedback loop is broken. They put in work, they see no immediate result, and their brain shuts down the motivation engine. However, there is a way to fix this loop. And it starts with something we've all dismissed as too small to matter: the small win. A small win is not just checking off an item on a list. A small win is an event where your action directly leads to a visible result, which triggers a release of dopamine. It closes the circuit. Action followed by result equals dopamine. Dopamine equals motivation. Motivation equals future action. When you complete a small win, your brain literally rewires itself. It updates its database from effort is painful and unrewarding to action leads to good things. This is neuroplasticity in action. You are physically building new pathways in your prefrontal cortex that connect effort directly to reward. Think of your big goal not as a massive mountain, but as a long road made of tiny stepping stones. If you try to jump from the bottom of the valley to the top of the mountain in one leap, you will fall. You might land on your face and never get up. But if you build a path, step by step, each small win becomes a bridge that leads you closer to the destination. Let's look at an example. Imagine someone wants to run a marathon. They start training for it. By week 2, their legs feel sore. By week 4, they are dreading running every single day. Their brain screams, "Why am I doing this? It hurts. It's hard. Is it worth it?" In the traditional mindset, they focus on the big goal, the marathon in 6 months. They think, I have so far to go. This overwhelming distance drains their motivation. They feel small against the task. Their feedback loop is broken because there is no visible progress relative to the effort. Now, imagine that same person changes their strategy. Instead of focusing on the 6-month timeline, they focus entirely on today's goal. Today's goal is, I will put on my running shoes and walk around the block. They do it. They get home. And suddenly, because they kept a promise to themselves, a small chemical reward fires in their brain. They feel a sense of pride. The next day, their brain says, that felt good. I should probably try for 2 laps today. Not 3 laps, just 2. They do it. Again, the reward fire. The loop closes again and again. Over weeks and months, this small win loop compounds. Eventually, they find that they can run further than 2 blocks. Then 4 blocks. The goal of running the marathon shifts from a terrifying distant figure to something inevitable because their brain has now been rewired to expect success after effort. They haven't just trained their legs, they have trained their psychology. This principle applies to everything in life. It applies to learning a language, saving money, building a relationship, or fixing a habit. Why does this work better than big resolutions? Because big resolutions rely on willpower alone. Willpower is a finite resource. If you start your day by failing at something big, Maybe you didn't stick to your diet or you didn't write that report. You have depleted your self-control muscle before you've even started. You are setting yourself up for failure all day long. But if you structure your morning around small wins, you are building momentum. If you drink a glass of water first thing in the morning, small win. Your body feels hydrated, you get that quick dopamine hit, and then you brush your teeth, and then you make your bed. You enter the day with a brain that is wired for success. You are saying to your nervous system, we are going to do hard things, but we will take it one tiny, manageable step at a time. So, how do you design your life around these small wins? It starts with breaking down your big goals into such small components that failure is almost impossible. If your goal is to get in shape, don't set the goal as run 5 miles tomorrow. That's too heavy. Set the goal as put on my shoes and step outside for 30 seconds. If you do that, you succeeded. Celebrate it. Feel the win. Then next time, maybe add 10 more steps. If your goal is to write a book, don't say write 10 pages today. That sounds like a mountain. Say, write 3 sentences. Just one idea on the page. Often, once you start, you will write more, but the bar of entry was so low that you couldn't fail. And even if you only wrote 3 sentences, you closed the feedback loop. You got 3 sentences and a dose of dopamine. This is where the magic happens. The magic is in the repetition of closing the loop. Every time you close the loop, you strengthen the neural connection between I want it and I can get it. You are literally telling your brain that big goals are safe to pursue because they are built on a foundation of small, proven victories. Let's talk about the psychological shift that happens when you master this. When you rely on small wins, you move from a state of performance-based identity to a state of process-based identity. Most people think, I am a successful person because I achieved X result. If they lose their job, they lose their sense of self-worth. They feel broken because their identity was tied to the outcome, and the outcome was out of their control. But when you build your life on small wins, your identity is tied to your ability to take action. And that is something no one can take away from you. No matter what happens externally, if you keep taking those small steps, if you keep closing those loops, you remain intact. You become resilient. You develop a mindset where setbacks are just part of the process, not proof of failure. Consider the concept of compound interest. In finance, putting in a little money every month leads to massive wealth over time because of compounding. Your life works exactly the same way. Small wins compound not just in terms of results, but in terms of confidence and neurological health. The more you win small battles, the easier the next big battle becomes. There is also a profound effect on your stress levels. When your brain is in a feedback loop of success, cortisol, the stress hormone, drops. Your nervous system relaxes. You begin to operate from a place of abundance rather than scarcity. You stop feeling like you are fighting against the world and start feeling like you are flowing with it. But I want to be very clear. This doesn't mean you are lazy or that you are only working on minor tasks. Small wins are the foundation for massive impact. You can build a skyscraper on a base of small bricks. In fact, without those small bricks, the skyscraper would collapse before it hit the ground. The big goals give you direction. The small wins give you the fuel to get there. Sometimes people will say, but I don't have time for all these tiny things. That is a lie. We are constantly overwhelmed by noise. We spend our days reacting to emails, scrolling through social media, and managing crises. But when we carve out space for intentional small wins, we regain control of our attention. We stop being reactive slaves to circumstances and start becoming proactive architects of our reality. Imagine ending your day with a review of your small wins. Not the big failures you might have had, those are lessons, not definitions, but the 3 or 4 small victories you achieved today. I woke up on time. I drank my water. I answered that difficult email calmly. I listened to someone fully. End your day with this feeling of accomplishment. Tell your brain, we survived. We thrived. The loop is closed. Sleep well, knowing that tomorrow's foundation is already laid.